Now I know in BQE that you guys, the way you guys were logging time before was like just an individual, like at their individual thing rather than at the task level. So it's just a little bit different thought process. So when we were talking through the work type attributes, that made sense to include it because like, oh, hey, we're logging work at like the individual level. So I need to know, was this billable to the task? Was this not billable? Was this all of those types of things? In this case, the attributes could probably be shrunk down to billable, non-billable, and maybe just those two. And you have specific ways that you track your rework, or you have what's called an internal issue. Like, so in this case, a couple of internal issues where I talked about having a completely separate Jira space for your, like, say, Martin internal issues or whatever. This is generally the practice that we've implemented and see with other teams, is they'll have a project or a Jira space that exists just for these internal issues they're tracking time against, whether it's meetings that are not billable, right? PTO, holiday, personal development or professional development, things of that sort. You can think through, get ideas with that. They would exist outside of these spaces. And so when somebody's like, hey, I'm on PTO for the next week, they would log it at the internal issue versus logging it directly in their space against an account. Because what that does is now you're gonna, and I'll show it to you, you'll have a work log history of billable, non-billable, PTO type of thing, and you just automatically have to like pull that out. If you want it to stay within the space and you want to have internal issues within the space, you absolutely can, because anybody can log time against any issue. Theoretically, they can, anybody, you can just have one issue, one PTO that exists, and everybody just knows the habit of they log their PTO against that. If that's important to note, okay, this is what we're logged against. So that's kind of the best practice, is that you don't actually, what happens is if I were to log time against this task as a PTO, the person who manages like billable and non-billable hours and would always have to update a work log. So let's just say hours I took today off, PTO. I'm going to log it under somebody else because I've built a team. So let's just say Jennifer took that time. I'm gonna hit log time. So now I said, you know, hey, I spent this time that I was gonna work on this ticket. It's PTO time. I actually didn't do anything. In my mind, it doesn't make sense to log PTO here. But in the case that, you know, you want to be able to do that, when I go back over into my reports, so this, think of the person who's kind of the project manager who's keeping track of these billable and non-billable hours. This is this work log. I did it for the current quarter just because of how I was logging time so we could see it. And it's all these billable hours. And then as it goes through, like it defaults. So here's PTO. I'm going to always have to go in and say 0 hours against that because we're not billing the client for PTO. So it would just add an additional set of maintenance. You may want to see this. This is for the design space. You can do it for a team. But that's where the best practice is, and that's a setting within Tempo to create internal work items. And this is just the stuff that's not going to get pulled into being a billable.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does anybody have questions about that? But does outside of Steve?
No, I'm good.
We don't want to be logging that other activity against project.
Real quick, I know this looks like a lot, and if you'd rather just have me and my team help implement exactly what I'm showing you in this video, that is exactly what we do. We're currently opening up 4 more slots for our Jira strategy. We only run 4 of these per month. If you're interested, hit the first link in the description below.